So let's start with selection sets, right? So what are the selection sets? It's a new group by function where you can group elements that you have imported from your 3D model into your custom groups, which will improve your organization of the models and the efficiency of how you work to get like better visualization on the parts that you are sequencing. And also it's easier to search groups of parts that you have already created, right? So if I open my quick scenario over here, we can see that this is a structural building, right, that I have imported and I usually use in our workshops. And right now we have the group by function over here on the top, where if you can see that we have added a new option, which is the set, where you can group things by selection sets. This model hasn't been used for selection sets yet, so this is what we're going to do today. That's why this is undefined, right? So if we go back over here in our bean structure, I can see the IFC classes of my model and like how things are organized over there. And sometimes like my initial suggestion for anytime that you're working with your model and you're working with sequencing and so on is to isolate that model, because it makes it clearer for you to see which parts you're selecting, and also avoiding selecting things that are not in your view. So I'm going to right click on this and then I'm going to do a temporary hide everything else, and all the parts of my view are going to go away. And I'm also going to I'm going to hide my terrain. Okay, so to start creating my selection sets, I need to select a bunch of parts and start assigning them to the sets, right? So to select these parts, there are several ways for you to do that. You can hold Control and then select parts by clicking on them. You can hold Control by drag like a selection box, and this will create a lasso selection where you can like it will select everything that that box touches. And if you hold Control and Shift, you can unselect parts and quickly create a group of selection based on that. Okay. You can also use the tree structure over here where you can click on the predefined values that you have for your IFC classes, right? And also parts are defined by their levels. So if I want to create a group of parts that are the foundation parts, I can just go over here and select the footing and the slab, and I will right click anywhere and then click on edit beam element. And this will open the properties of those parts. And I'm going to click over here in properties, right? So when I click on this, now you can see that there is a new attribute, new property that you can change over here, and it's the selection set. So when you would start with your select set undefined, and when you click on it, you're going to have a drop down where the drop down will show all the existing sets. If there is none, like right now, I can simply start typing a name and then I will create a new selection set. So I will create the set called foundation. So now all of these parts are tagged as a foundation part. And if I go into my selection set over here, I'm going to see a new group of parts that will be foundation. So if I click outside and select these objects, only those objects will be selected, right? So this will allow you to create some sort of definition of these parts, because let's say, for example, that I want to create a sequence with foundation and then my verticals for level 1 and then verticals for P1 and all of that. So sometimes you won't see all of these parts grouped in the way that you want to sequence them on the tree structure. So you can go ahead and create the sets yourself. So if I select all of these objects over here, I'm selecting now all the verticals on that level P1, and I can also start with my selection set. So if I create a couple over here in this field, so P1 verticals, and then I can, even if you want to like hide the objects that you already created the sets for, you can simply do that, right? Keep in mind that you cannot put the same object in two different sets at the same time. It can only be done one object per set. So this is a quick way for you to do that. So if I want to go over here and do the set for my slab on grade, right? And then can go and hide this. And let's say that I will do like just the verticals for now to make it easy. So edit beam elements, create a new set, L1 vertical, and so on. And there you go. So now this way, I can quickly create these groups. And then if I want to work with these groups to create my sequence and also apply presentation visuals to them, you can do that very quickly. And this will be persistent with you if you refresh your view and start the session again, right? So this is a quick way for you to keep like a proper organization of your parts. So like, for example, this one over here was not added to that. So I can click on that and then set this up to L2 verticals. And like, for example, this slab over here, I want to pour the beams and the slabs at the same time. So I can, if I want to choose to create like two pours, I can go ahead and select this and then create my two pours, right? So if I hold shift and like deselect these objects, I can now say that this property will be, let's say this is level one. This is level one, level two, zone pour one, you know, pour one, and so on. So this is great because you can also see that like it will grab all of the volumes of those objects and then put them over here. So you can quickly select these parts and then like extract the volumes out of that and so on and so forth, right? So sadly, these beams are all in the same kind of like geometry, and I could use my split geometry to kind of like put them in different buckets. But just for today, I'm gonna go quickly and then put these guys on my level two port two. There you go. So I won't do this for the whole model, of course, because otherwise like the section would just be about that. And then you can see that I have like all of these groups now, and I can go ahead and select them individually to see how they are compiled. Okay. So please use this tool as much as you can. And this is the first version of the tool. So if you can provide some feedback about like what you were thinking of, how the tool works and so on and so forth, that would be great. Okay, so to provide feedback about this tool and like maybe request for more capabilities and functionalities, you can click on the question mark over here on the top, go into feature request, and let us know what you would expect this tool, how you expect this tool to work. Okay.
We have a
So,
few questions on
yep,
this topic, Pedro. So first one, can you split objects and then put them into sets?
yes. Once you split an object using the model split tool, like every new part that is generated from that action can be managed as they were like individual parts, as a the default way that you do with other parts, right? So like all the actions that can be applied to an unsplit geometry can also be applied to the split geometry.
And that's a really big part of the use case, actually. So a lot of times you have a core, for example, for your building that's all just in one
Mm-hmm.
single part. So you can
Yep,
split that and then put it into selection sets that you wanted to, and then you'd be able to
exactly.
sequence it with your how you're actually building your structure. So for example, like a few levels ahead of your actual
So
slab that you're building.
exactly. So if I create a split on this on this tool right now, and I want you to split those beams that were all will all gather in the same geometry, I can filter my tree structure over here by beam, and then I can select my structural components for the beams, and then as you can see, like this adds them to the split list, and then when I hit confirm, like that split will go through all of these objects. Of course, I selected parts over here that cannot be split because probably the split geometry is not going, the geometry the line that I drew is not going through them. But now if I go back over here and temporarily hide this object, you see that temporarily hide everything else. You see that the beams that I have over there, they are like now split into two different parts. Cool.
Okay, great.
Using that
Next
same
one,
geometry. Cool.
next
Next
question
question.
is,
Yep.
yep, is if you updated a model with minor changes to the foundations, would that update the set or will it break? Is there a specific property that the set is tied to in the model's native program?
I believe that this first version will not retain that the selection sets to new versions of the model, but we can confirm this to figure it out. Like I'm pretty sure that it's not applied yet to model updates because this is something that we are planning to bring in the new version of the split tool and also on the selection sets to be able to retain all of the attributes that you apply to a specific geometry. And then when you update it, it will retain that.
Okay, and then the third one, I'll pose it as a question. Would you see the selection sets in the tree?
Yes, like when you're going to, but you need to change the grouping method, right? So if you're working with the bean structure in level class, this will not show the selection sets in here. But if you go into set, that's where you can see like what are the sets that you created.